Bill O'Reilly predicts the end of MSNBC, and we approve. I'm John Mike Keane.
Comcast said, you two, we're going to have to try to mend some cliche fences, and you two are going to go in there and you're going to try to tamp it down. Because Comcast knew the next day they were going to announce that MSNBC is vapor.
He declares them vapor. We agree. They've always been vapor. But Joe Scarborough and Mika went on a rescue mission for the network to mend things with Trump. Now, that's not what they said they did. You know, they said they were just trying to be normal journalists suddenly. But really, it's self-preservation. This is what people do. They went against their own values, which is Trump hatred. They hate Trump deep down inside. And they went against their values to keep their job.
That is a huge meteor story.
Why is it vapor? Just because they're spinning it off and putting them in they're spinning off a bunch of brands.
There's no spin-off.
There is. It's a spin-off company.
There's no spin-off. See, you buy the propaganda, Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean about
I'm just saying
people?
What's being reported.
All right.
But what do you know?
And that's where we're bringing up this, that it was reported that Comcast is going to be spun off from NBC Universal, but really it's worthless dreck. It's vapor. It has no value. So that even their announcement about what's going to happen with MSNBC was a massive liberal lie.
Yeah, I know, but why would you believe what's being reported? You want the real story? Here it comes.
Please.
So they're uncoupling their word, Comcast, MSNBC from NBC News. That means MSNBC has no resources at all. None. They're not going to be able to pay these people millions of dollars, Rachel Maddow, whatever she's making. NBC News is saying, we don't want you around. Why? Because NBC News' numbers, Lester Holt and the Today Show, are catastrophe, because half the country equates NBC News with MSNBC, and they won't watch.
So even MSNBC is dragging down NBC, which is also a liberal establishment, but at least it's not psychotically hateful. Here's Joe Rogan on the mainstream media repeating lies simply because they hated Trump.
They're dunking on Donald Trump because Donald Trump said, I've heard it's less than 1%. He was right.
He was totally correct.
Quite a bit less than 1%.
In a lot of conversations with a lot of people that do this, I think the number is way under 1%.
So to fact check, the World Health Organization says the coronavirus death rate is 3.4%.
President Trump lies that the World Health Organization is wrong.
The number is 3.4%. 3.4% is what it's being reported around.
My boy Sanjay.
The death rate.
The percentage is 3.4%. And no hunch from the president can change that.
Trump lied about the most recent World Health Organization estimate that the global death rate of coronavirus is 3.4%.
The 3.4% death rate was wrong, and WHO data later updated it to
a fraction of 1%.
Let's go back into history.
Trump has a hunch that the death rate is lower than 1%.
Way under 1%.
Way under 1%.
Will someone put a mozzarella stick in his stupid hole?
Trump lied to viewers about the mortality rate.
Way under 1%.
False information.
He's spreading disinformation.
Misinformation and dangerous disinformation.
If you're president of the United States, you have the world's greatest scientists at your disposal. You listen to them.
Leading scientists, including Dr. Fauci, wrote in the New England Journal of Medicine that the death rate could be considerably less than 1%.
Way under 1%.
Why? See, this is we've seen enough. These people are puppets, man. They're puppets, and they willfully, gleefully repeat these narratives.
We're going to fire the warning shot on CNN too. The news organizations that just repeat lies because they're puppets. That's not what you're paid to do. And America, as a mass, voted against that on November 5th. People don't like being lied to when you're supposed to be a trusted source. And the news right now is hitting at about a approval rating of about 30%. They're actually lower than Joe Biden at his lowest. That is, they're even less trusting of the mainstream media. And media, there's no signs. They're just doing these tiny, tiny efforts to fix things on the edges when they need to be completely reformed. MSNBC should be dying right. They should be offering multi-million-dollar contracts to Benny Johnson, to Ian Miles Chong, to like these tiny, even be Hizzy, these tiny YouTube and X influencers and Rumble influencers, even Steven Crowder. They should be giving them mainstream operations, and they should be so lucky if any of them would take it. but they should be investing millions of dollars in them to rescue their whole corporate organization. But they won't do it because deep down inside, this liberalism is a kind of religion to them. They would rather die, like many religionists.
So NBC is desperately trying to save the mothership of information, and they have to throw MSNBC overboard.
And so would leftist secular progressives.
They're not putting anything into MSNBC. They want to sell it. So where's Georgie Soros now? Georgie's buying radio stations. You can get MSNBC for nothing. They'll give it to you.
Even George Soros, with all of his money, who could be investing into MSNBC, is putting his money into radio, taking a step back in technology to talk radio, even over MSNBC, which is a mess. No one wants to touch it. It's kryptonite. We'll see who buys it. Cheap television network. Even Elon Musk has joked about buying it.
They don't want any more of this. Why? Because it's hateful. Not because it's so far left. The whole NBC Comcast hierarchy is far left. But it's hateful. They hate Trump. They hate people who vote for Trump. Everybody knows that.
And their audience hates Trump. That's the only reason they exist. And how do you turn on an audience and suddenly moderate your position and try to get more of both sides or whatever, or have Mika and Joe go out and meet President Trump, where they've conditioned their audience to think of Trump as a fascist Hitler? There's no way they can turn it around. They have spoiled it. Same way that John Mike Keene has an audience. I've built an audience on loving Trump and defeating Kamala Harris. What if I suddenly turned on my own audience and started promoting Kamala Harris? I'd lose everyone.
What do you think of that?
Well, I'm certainly not going to accuse him of not making sense.
He is telling the truth. People are coming around to what makes sense. Speaking of what makes sense, here's John Kennedy.
I see no other.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, as acting ranking member.
Don't let it go to your head.
I love the power. I didn't know what it felt like to be
It's an amazing thing.
It is. It's better than sex. I don't know. Not really.
And on that happy note, let us know in the comments below what you think MSNBC should do. Can they possibly turn this channel around? That's what I want to know from the chat. What would it take for you to watch MSNBC as a faithful viewer? You tell me in the chat below, what could they do? Like if they hired Bill O'Reilly? What if they hired Vivek Ramaswamy and gave him his own show? What if they gave, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk have announced that they're starting their Doge podcast? What if MSNBC simulcast, rebroadcast that as a daily show, their oversight of government? What if they hired Benny Johnson and gave him a primetime spot? What if they hired any number of right-wing commentators? What if they hired us? Would you watch? Or is their brand so spoiled that there's nothing they can do and it just needs to be burned to the ground? I'm John Mike Keene.